Welcome to Poemify Podcast, the poetry and art talk show, where we celebrate the beauty and diversity of African art. Our show features interviews with African artists, poets, and other creatives who draw inspiration from the rich cultural heritage of Africa. In each episode, our host engages in a lively discussion with our guests, delving into the inspiration behind their art, the cultural significance of African work, and the role of poetry and arts in promoting and preserving African culture. So, if you're a lover of arts, poetry, or African culture, tune into our podcast today and join us on this exciting journey of discovery and creativity. Once again, welcome to Poemify Podcasts.
So we've started. I'm ready whenever you are.
Sure.
All right. So please, can you tell us more about yourself? Who is Kalu Siza Amah?
Kalu Siza Amah is a poet,
Okay.
a writer, and a performer, more especially into creative, you get. So,
Yes.
yeah, I do many arts, so from performance art to literary art, but I don't have a space in the visual arts. So from my understanding of arts are in three categories, the
Okay.
visual, the performance, and the literary art. So
Yeah.
I spend 70% of my time in the performing art and 30% of my art in the literary art. That means I write poetry sometimes,
Okay.
especially at night. Yeah. So, and outside art, I'm also a teacher. I teach literature and African studies.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's just it. I have interest in sports, but I stopped for 2 years now. I've not been into sports then. Still part of my performing arts happen to be music. So I play guitar, but I have a bad voice too. So this just yeah, these are just
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So I just want to take a wild guess. So I guess that your love for stage performance birthed the love for teaching, or did you ever think you'd stand in a class to teach before?
yeah, it's a generational thing anyway. My mother is a teacher and my other sister too is a teacher, so it has been in the family blood, you get. It's just that I never imagined that one day I will also want to teach something that relates to performance, you get. I've only wanted to teach
Yeah.
literature, and when I say literature, I mean the literary arts, to
Wow.
help students, analyze a test, a literary test, and as well poetry. So, but when I now found the overlap between, teaching literary tests and as well teaching performance, so it became something very fascinating and something I loved that I do with my life. So teaching has been something from when I left secondary school in 2012. I started teaching in another secondary school in the same year, that's September. So it's been over 12 years now, or 10. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. So you said you're into poetry. Let me just say, poetry is you. In a way, poetry is you. So what is your definition of poetry? What does poetry mean to you personally as an individual?
Well, maybe let me draw this from other people's perspective or reason for entering poetry. People say they use it to escape from the world. Some persons, use poetry to express themselves. You get. So, but I think it is a genre of literature that I loved how
Okay. All right. Are you there, Mr. Kalu?
you.
Sir?
Can you hear me? Maybe you're not.
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right. Let's say you missed a couple of things that I said. So I was just saying that my notion of poetry is the fact that people see it as being complex, as a complex genre, and I love the complexity of it. I'm not objecting to the fact that it is complex, it is condensed, there is economy of words. So I always like to say a little but to do more. So I found poetry as a genre of literature that people say little but do more. So that was why I fell in love with it.
Okay. How did you first become interested in spoken word poetry?
I think I was motivated by DKHQ Merije because I'm a theater product, so I'm more into drama performance, than spoken word. You get, so spoken word for me started in 2019 when I met Abba Poetry Club. You get, and from there I started following DKHQ Merije online, stuff like that. But it only has to happen for a short time, which I also encourage every other poet. Somebody should bring you into the picture, but don't stay there for long. Find your own voice, stuff like that. So I found my own voice. But as far as spoken word poetry, we are not talking of pitch poetry, but as far as spoken word poetry is concerned, I was just motivated by DKHQ Merije and Asha. Although my sound unrelated, but Asha being a musician to me is one of the biggest poets I've ever known. She may not have considered herself as a poet, but check her lyrics. Yeah, she is to me.
Wow, that's quite interesting. So there's something you said that caught my attention, and you said find your voice. How did you find your voice as a poet, as an artist, as a creative generally?
I'm always I'm that boy that grew up in Aba, so when we say, for example, if we say your mother tongue or your L1, that means the language you dream of, you get. And no matter how you learn English, if your mother tongue is your first language, you still dream in that language. If you dream, you still dream in that language, you get. So as a boy that grew up in Ungwa Road in Aba, so people who know this place is cool.
I asked about how you handle criticism and how constructive criticism has shaped you and your art as a creative and as a poet.
Okay, about criticism, I was trying to differentiate it to separately try criticism from performing art criticism, because this is something I find that I don't think people should just dish out criticism on, or any level or any standard you've set up for your criticism to a work of art. I don't think you should just use the same standards on these two different types of art, literary art and performing art. When it comes to literary criticism, sure, dish out your constructive criticism to make and help and also assist the artist or the writer for them to grow where they could improve. That's good, that's fine. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do this in the in the performing arts. Sure, give her your constructive criticism, but there should be a level to constructive criticism when it comes to performance art. And that's why if you check, I don't think, even if you browse my name anywhere, you can't see me on a poster where people are doing, or where maybe I registered for any poetry contest, because I don't believe that your art, in terms of performing art, should be told how low level or how low par it is. So that's why in Nigeria I always have a problem when they use the word mainstream. People say you are not doing mainstream poetry. Cut the crap. We should all focus on doing a poetry or creating a type of art that is enduring. That should just be the sole purpose of art. Today we are still recreating Shakespeare. Today we are still recreating Langston Hughes. Today we are still going over the work of T.S. Eliot. Do you think if these people had not created an enduring art, that it would have lived up to this age? No. Were they doing mainstream poetry? I will still tell you no. But they were looking at an art that would be enduring. So when we say mainstream, because my understanding of Nigerian mainstream poetry is, okay, if we are talking about the LGBT community, so every poetry should just be in that way. If we are, okay, poetry has left that LGBT, poetry is now on about the soul and body, so everyone should be doing soul and body. Or poetry has left that line, poetry is now talking about, how men are, all those issues, interpersonal issues between genders. Oh, poetry is now talking about death, grief, so everybody should just be creating an art that centers around death, grief. Oh, we are now into eco poetry. Like poetry has gone, oh, this is a time for love poetry, so you are not doing anything that talks about. See, allow people enjoy their art, allow people own to their voice. So if your niche is for you to do poetry that is indigenous, stay on your niche. You are unique, is enduring. Just make sure that you put in things that will make that poetry, that work of art, things that will make it enduring, things that will make it last, stand the test of time. If you are doing poetry via the LGBT community, look out for how can this thing stand the test of time. That is your voice. So I always have problem when they say mainstream poetry, or when they try to offer a criticism or try to critique a particular piece of art because it was performed in a particular language which is not English, or because there is infusion of other indigenous languages into the work and all these things. So that's why I don't always pay attention to competition or poetry contest. I'm not saying I'm not against it or something of that nature, but the judges need to do better in trying to allow people to come on stage with their uniqueness. I appreciate constructive criticism. I really embrace it more when it comes to literary arts, because as a writer and someone who is published too, so you can only grow through this criticism. So it has really helped me. Yeah, it has. Again.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kalu. Thank you for this insight. So for fellow spoken words artists and creatives out there, embrace your uniqueness. There is no artist that will perform the same way as you. Embrace your uniqueness, know your niche, and stick to it. Yes, stick to it and hone that skill very well. It is okay to accept criticism, but do not let anyone shut you up for being you, for being unique and expressing yourself the way you feel best to express yourself, and you feel people will hear you better and connect with you on another level. Thank you so much, Mr. Kalu. So the next question is, how do you balance your professional and personal life as a poet? I know you can get busy as a stage performer, as a teacher, and as a poet. and also as a writer. So how do you strike a balance between your personal and professional life?
Well, I think this is an interesting question anyway, but I think it's easy. It's easy to do because you are doing something that you love. You get. Understand, if you are in a place, let me not mention in a country, you get, but if you are in a place where your passion and your profession are not paying off, you get, it can be a problem for you to, balance the two things and as well with your personal life. But the place I am at the moment now is somewhere that it's just easy. You could decide to do this for the rest of your life and you still become successful. I don't mean wealth, I don't like using the language of wealth because artists don't get wealthy. You didn't hear that from me anyway, but I'm just facing reality, you get. But it's easy for me personally because teaching art or African studies and as well doing performance, it's just something that I find so cool, and I can even have my breakfast doing any of them. I can use any of them and replace a date. If I want to go on a date with someone, I can say, okay, I'm inviting you to my production. Okay, there is a show I want us to attend. So you see, it gives me the opportunity to bring in every other aspect of my life into it. So I could just have lunch, like I mentioned before, while doing art. I could, all those other things that should take some time from me, let's say my day-to-day activity, I could do them while doing this. So it's easy because the passion is there, because the two professions overlap, because the two activities overlap. Unlike someone who is a banker and as well you are a poet, the person might find it hard to always, share their time with these two professions or these two activities or career. But this works hand in glove because I'm an artist, I'm a performer, and I'm a teacher. And I'm not teaching sciences. I'm also teaching art-related, course and subjects. So it's easier. It's easier for me. I don't find it difficult. It's something that I enjoy doing, and it's so fascinating.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kalu. I'm so glad that you enjoy what you do and there is a conducive environment for you to work effectively and to deliver effectively. That's what we all want. We're just not about the money, although money is important, wealth is important, but then doing what you love it's what we all want, is what everyone is striving for. And for you to say you enjoy what you do and there's a conducive environment to which you can be the best that you are, that's awesome. And I'm so happy for you. I'm glad. And yes, your skills, all you do, they work hand in glove, as you said, so there's no clash or anything. And it took my heart to know you are happy doing what you do. So the next question is, what are some of the trends or issues that affect the African poetry scene that you have noticed, and how do they impact your writing and vision as a poet? So are there trends or issues that you have noticed and you have taken note of, or you've taken note of in the African poetry scene, and how have they impacted your writing and vision as a poet thus far? It is what it is, and that sums it up. It is what it is. So I watched your last freestyle spoken words video and I was in awe. God, I couldn't believe that was an impromptu spoken words delivery in the public. I felt the rush of emotions. I could connect with the message and we could see it in you, like you felt everything that you were saying. How do you keep yourself motivated and inspired as a poet? Like, how do you get motivated? Where do the inspirations come from? Are there any techniques or strategies to create effective poems, or they just come? Are there any rituals that you do? What motivates you? What has been motivating you thus far as a creative? Okay, thank you so much for your input. Yes, it is true that people, let me put it this way, they don't rate spoken word poetry as an art. Like, they need to send like that. Let me even just put it in this kind of term. They know to rate us, or creatives in general, and it's sad. But I can see that we're getting there, because a lot of creatives, spoken word artists are coming up every day, and we just need the support of the people, and we'll see how far we can go. Yes, because we are very, very rich, and the messages we have to pass. We are creative, Nigerian creatives. We are very, very creative. So thank you so much. So you talked about like a few challenges. So what challenges have you faced personally as a creative, and can you just let us know how you overcome them, or have you overcome them? Do they still come up once in a while, still as a spoken word artist?
Well, I didn't really pay attention to my challenges. That's the thing. I didn't pay attention to it, but I know there were a lot of them, just like there are for artists who are still in Nigeria. You know, I talked about, you know, the support for arts. You get, I know it's everywhere for you to get endorsement, for you to get sponsor. You know, you really need to be strategic. You know how to put your plans. But I know a whole lot of guys that have gone beyond just writing a proposal to any of these industry to, you know, sponsor them or partner with them or collaborate with them, you know. And at the end of everything, it just end up being, okay, you can have our name in your flyer or whatever, no monetary or whatever commitment. So to me personally, it was always a matter of a space or a stage. Take a look at Southeast. How many theaters do we have in Southeast? So almost every theater we have in Southeast is in a college, you know, a theater department in a college, in a polytechnic, in a university. So you seldom find whereby they will just, you know, let's say building an auditorium built by the government just dedicated for performance art. We should have these things so that these creatives, whoever that has a dream or a show, you know, can just put up, you know, a proposal to the government. You just support them that way. Even if you won't give them the money, you give them the space. So most times we host events, we create a stage in an event hall, you know. And it's crazy because we can't get the effect of what a stage should be. So these were things I faced personally. So after I did my Julius Caesar monologue in March, that was in March 2022, I just felt like, no, I don't think I'm going to repeat this again, because the stage is not there. I had to pay for a stage, you know, to be brought, you know, to my event venue. So these are little challenges. For example, that was personal to me. That was why I stopped. So I wasn't actually looking for money. I know there are other people who will be looking for money to sponsor their shows and all this, but these were my own challenge in terms of a space to do your thing, to do your show. So in 2023, that was this year, I didn't even talk about doing any Julius Caesar monologue. I just let it go, but it is what it is. Well, I think African poetry, well, let's say we have the richest boundaries when it comes to, you know, issues or topical issues or, themes, what people center their poetry on, what people want to recreate in their poems, what people want to reflect in their poetry or in their literature in general. I think African artists, we have a lot. Experiences coming from colonialism, experiences coming from resistance, experiences, coming from neo-colonialism, post-colonialism, finding a voice, ruling ourselves and, trying to live from developing to a developed country, setbacks, governmental systems, people trying to find self, business, culture, tradition, values. Mention them. We have a lot to explore. We have the richest content here in Africa. So I love African poetry, honestly speaking. I love African poetry and it's relatable. I understand it might not be relatable globally, but it's relatable if you're an African. If it's something you can also sell to the world, and it will really be fascinating. Look at Nnedi Okorafor. It's one of my best novelists. She carved a niche in Juju story. All those Otokoto we were hearing when we were kids. Nnedi just put it in literary form. If you read Sonny's I almost mistook it for James Baldwin's Sonny's Blues. Yeah, if you read Akata which the main character there is Sonny Wanzwe. So you find what Nnedi Okorafor really did there, trying to recreate African futurism, just like we have science fiction. So that was what she did. And she is not the first to have done that. There are the likes of Amos Tutuola, who wrote the palm wine drink card. People never believed what, not like they didn't believe, they thought he was just crazy writing whatever he was writing, but we could call him pace setters when it comes to, African sci-fi or something of that nature. So we have a lot to explore. We have a lot to explore in our poetry as Africans, in our creative, in our art, when it comes to maybe prose fiction or drama and all these things. So it's something I find really fascinating, and if there is something we are not really doing well as African poets or as African artists or novelists, I will only say, in terms of publicity and our, value for art, you get. So, for example, you go to Owerri, you go to Onitsha, you go to Aba, you go to Port Harcourt, you go to, there are cities, and you find out that there are many creatives who have this burning story inside them, but the support is not there, and they are trying to push their voice. They are trying. They go as far as hosting poetry events, hosting literary festivals. Most of the time, they are not being sponsored. These are their personal money, which they are getting from another business. So the life of an African artist or a Nigerian artist or a Nigerian poet is, we live a life of will I say make believe in a situation where the money that we make is made from another profession, then we use it and invest it to push art, to push poetry, to push performance. I can use myself for example. People will see me online then and they will think, oh wow, poetry is really paying this guy. Yes, it was paying, but it was a seasonal stuff. It was only when they invited you to perform, and you can only be invited for example, in a year you might just attend 20 events. So it's not enough to foot your bills. You get. So most times we host events, most times we travel to events, and we use our money to host these events. And where are those money coming from? They are not coming from the creative. It's either they are coming from the fact that you're a teacher in a secondary school and you are being paid, or you have one business or the other you are doing in Aba, or you are into tailoring, or you are into one tech business, or you work with a company, or you work in the bank, or you work this place, or you work that place. You have one business or the other that is unrelated to art. and you make this money and you use it and invest in art. But it doesn't work this way in other parts of the world, whereby if you are a poet, you only concentrate on it. If you need money, then that means you need to get published. You need to host event where people will buy tickets and come and watch it. You make gains. You take the money, also look out for bigger stage, bigger opportunities, bigger investment. So this is not really a culture, but it's good with the transformation that is happening now in Nigeria. The likes of Graciano Enwerem, Powell, Tobi Abiodun, DK Kumireji, trying to make it into a moving theater. They are really, moving it. 78 Samis, even John Vincent, everyone is coming together. ABM, to mention but a whole lot of them. I can't even mention all of them. So we are pushing it. We've not gotten there, but we are getting there. So we are making it. So to me, when they say mainstream, so I think this is something we should bring into the limelight and call it mainstream. You get the fact that it's a culture that people have to pay for shows, and the only thing you are coming to listen to is just creatives when it comes to poetry, drama performance, monologue, and all this, and you are not coming because one popular musician is also in the list of artists, or one popular comedian is also in the list of artists. You are paying this ticket, you are paying this 5,000 naira, you're paying this 2,000 naira because you just want to come and listen to spoken word poetry. So we'll get there. So I don't think there is anything I will criticize about African poetry. We have rich content, we are really diverse, we have a lot, we have a lot of talents, and we are really doing awesome to bring this into the global context.
Well, I think thank you very much for that. I take that as a compliment. I think the motivation mostly comes from what I read and what I've experienced, because I've not stayed, I've not spent a lot of time in the world for me to know everything I know today. So that's why literature is there. You could travel in time when you read. So I understand that my poetry is indigenous. That's my style. I like infusing cultural let's say elements in my poetry, for it to just have that mixture of modern and I won't use the word old, but modern and cultural appeal. So the motivation is always through what we read and what we've experienced. So the things I've experienced have just been from my home, and a few many times that I've traveled to the village. But mostly what I read, you have to read about your culture, about your people, about what happened during the pre-colonial period and all this. So this help give you content for you to talk about, and that's where the motivation comes. You get what I read mostly. Then again, is the fact that people like it. You get. So if you see what people like, you want to research more. You get. So I discovered that people like the prayers that I always say at the beginning of my poem. Especially there's this particular poem that prayer, and it made me, I had a voice too, especially when I moved to Enugu. So they really appreciated, not like every other place didn't appreciate it, but they really appreciated the fact that I would start with Egolf. And Center for Memories is there, so an institution preserving Igbo culture. So during their Ankato Muibe, looking at such events, or the name alone will tell you the type of people that will be there. Nkato Muibe, like Umuibe, kinsmen have come to discuss, to talk about issues in the society and how they could progress, how they could move forward. And you're invited as an artist there, and you start telling them about Rainbow, Romeo, Juliet, stuff like that. So it's incongruous. But when in such events you start spoken word, or start your performance or presentation with some cultural, greetings, prayers, sayings, proverbs, it keeps them in awe, and they yearn to hear for more. And I've done it, so each time I keep on adding to it, because there are a lot of them. Each time I keep on adding to it, so just coming to an event where people are seated, people of different ages. Even I come to discover that I've come to discover that even younger ones are also very interested about the whole Ego and all these things. So it cuts across ages, because it's something that most time they wonder, how are you able to say this without putting any English word? Because having the fluidity that we share as multilinguist is always showing off whenever we speak. So that's just the motivation. Is also stemming from people's love and appreciation for my type of poetry. So it makes me add more lines to it. I could remember when I developed this ekele monyuku, ekele monyenta, ekele miku, ekele mibe, ekele iku nibe. So if you look at the iku and ibe, so in Igbo we just say iku nibe, but I just separated them. I was like, ekele miku, that I've greeted iku, I've also greeted ibe, then I combined them, I've greeted iku nibe. So it now sends the message of, oh, I saw what you did there, stuff like that. So styles, you get putting styles, spicing up your, an ordinary saying, a saying people might say, or a statement people might make in a normal occasion, but spicing it up, making it, playing on those statements, on those words. That's what makes it spoken word. That's what makes it art. That's the creativity there. But if you're just saying it like that, you're just making a statement. So that's the thing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate. So how do you engage with your audience or readers? Do you have any tips or advice for aspiring poets who would want to connect with their readers? So we just want to know, how do you connect with your readers and audience?
Yeah. So when it comes to publishing, I think I've not really been keeping up with publishing. I've just got my manuscript and abandoned it for like a year or two now, and I've not been writing, creative works now. I've really been into research, so research has really taken my time. So, and research is not something audience read until it's done, and most times when it's done, you don't really get people being so fascinated to read your research paper or something of that nature. So it's not like prose fiction, drama and poetry that people will say, okay, this has been released. So you mostly see my research in journals, and except if I share the link or something of that nature, but people have not really known me in that aspect anyway. So I will talk about how I engage my audience. I think I was talking with someone yesterday about performance. So I told the person, so we were talking about audience not being interested when you are performing or something of that nature. So I told him, find out one audience that is looking at you. Just locate that one audience. If there are 100 audience in an auditorium while you are performing and they seem distracted or have their attention somewhere else, just find that one audience. Use that one audience and keep to your pace and your consistency. Within a little while, all those audience that are getting distracted or are concentrating in something else will wonder what is really sponsoring this, your motivation, what is really keeping this your flow. And by the time you know it, you get all their rapt attention. And as a poet or as a spoken word poet, always find that line where audience complete in your poetry. That's just it. It's also another call and response. In teaching, we call it call and response method. You get. So it's also another call and response method you could employ while on stage. You get. But I'm not going to ask you to beat yourself to find to find a line where audience could help you complete it. But I have that in my poetry. I have that in my poetry. Most of my poems. I think I could remember a poem where I say something like, we all seem to have forgotten so soon that this evil river we were deterred from swimming or get chastised was the same place the priest took the community and got them baptized. So if I should judge from your own standard, we all should be ostracized. Even if I click, no matter how distracted you are, you must say sized. Like you just have that urge to complete that word. Even if like anywhere, audience are always the one completing this word for me. I've never been the one completing. For the past 2 years I've been doing that particular piece. Audience are always the one So I could remember in Anambra, that was 2022 or 2021, 2022, when they did their it's more like a concert, a poetry concert. So I was caught up on stage when people were eating, So when I was I just focused on one person that was just listening to me. But when it got to that line, the way everybody now said sized, and after that I got their rapt attention. So these are just little tricks, I do. Then the other question, what advice do I have to young up and coming? We are all up and coming. You get, any day you stop producing poetry, you stop being up and coming. So I don't have anything to just tell them. I will only say, do you get. I'm not in the position to dish out how art should be done. You get. I just say, do you get. Let's find uniqueness in you get. If you have a voice, you use your own voice. Don't allow anybody to tell you that you are not doing mainstream poetry, or people telling you are not doing trendy poetry. No. Instead, if there is something you should think about, is this poem going to last? Is it enduring? Okay, you have a poetry about COVID-19. Okay, you have a poetry about COVID-19, which you just concentrated on the COVID-19, and you were even mentioning COVID-19. You were just so concentrated on COVID-19. You don't want to draw. You didn't make any research to draw, a reference or to reference, similar event that had happened in the past. So there is no way that poetry will really be relevant in the future. So you need to show that transition, so that tomorrow we can always reference that your poetry, because this thing happened, stuff like that. So I think people should just be more focused on poetry that is, or an art that is enduring, that can last the test of time. And so while you still do your mainstream or whatever, just always ask yourself that question: can this thing last the test of time? I've had poetry that didn't even last the test of time. When I say it didn't last the test of time, it wasn't because the poems or the piece weren't good. No, they were good. You get. But I have a piece on wearing nose mask, stuff like that. A piece that could just pass for a jingle in terms of making an advert on how what the need, why wearing nose mask is pivotal, stuff like that. So, but now can I perform that piece? No. Yes, people are still advised to wear nose mask, but it doesn't call for awareness at this moment, at this point. I can't perform that piece again. That piece is just gone. that piece is gone. It's gone. You get. Very fine piece. It's my first pidgin poetry, but that piece is gone. But look at who changes for boys like me. I'm not saying that everybody will keep on suffering or something of the nature. We live in a society where all these things recycle. During the Victorian period, Oliver Twist was also a boy who was living in a society in the Victorian age of England. Oliver Twist was living in a society that Uche Njeri created in his poetry about for boys like him, maybe capturing Aba boys. So that shows that whatever we are not saying, okay, Uche Njeri's for boys like me might not stand the test of time because tomorrow things will be better. You see, we are in a society where man is to man a wolf. Man is to man a wolf. Solve one problem, a new problem comes up from that same department. That's the thing. We can't, any day we solve all the problem in the world, they know that the world has come to an end. So ask whether your poetry is really, is something that is enduring. I'm just saying these things for free. I think I'll stop here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, what are your goals, aspirations that you have as a poet? Do you have any upcoming projects or collaborations that you're excited about that you feel you can share with us?
Whatever I have to do is left for me here in the US, and I have not mentioned all this what we've been speaking, and I have not mentioned where I am currently. But I think this question, propels such response. So I currently I'm in exile. Maybe in the future I might have a collaboration home. You get? I still want to come back and do stuff with creatives here, but let's build bridges. That's the thing there. That's what I've come here to do. Let us build bridges, and when I want to collaborate, it will really be worth it. So for now, let me build bridges. Let me get a global voice. Let me get enough resources and platform so that if we are doing any other thing from hence, I can be part of a production like the production that I directed. I was a production manager here at Duke University. It's a mind-blowing one, and a theater that was built in the late 1920s, to grace such event, not as a performer anyway, but it also added another feather to my red cap, to have been the production manager of such, a production of an hour and 45 minutes. So you could imagine that, so I can't do anything low par. So the best I could do now is just get a lot of platforms and opportunities and voice and resources, and maybe come back home and do a lot of collaboration and assist, in the established protocol. Like I said at initial, people are doing stuff at home. They're really waxing strong, taking this out to another level, and I really appreciate their strength and resilience. I did too. I contributed too until I couldn't stay. I had to leave. So that's the stuff there. I'm looking forward to doing Julius Caesar here, which is always the Eyes of March, 15th of March. So I'm looking forward for a collaboration. If I see it happen, good deal, and you will see how it will be appreciated here. Yeah, it was appreciated in Southeast anyway, but you can't compare it to how such event will be appreciated here. So that's the thing.
That's great. I look forward to the performance of Julius Caesar very soon. Okay, so we've come to the end, and I'm so sad to let you go. But before I let you go, I would like to request a spoken words performance for you before you go. Please. Please grace us with a spoken words performance before we drop the mic.
All right, I'll do this piece because I think it's something that resonates with the season. Jesus Christ is the reason for the season. So from the days of John the Baptist, the kingdom of God suffered violence. So to those who don't want you to possess your possessions, no captains, just increase your violence. For whoever that walks through the valley of the shadow of death is already famous. So whatever the enemy does, our God no go shame us. For he has promised to give you this day your daily bread. So whether you eat okpa or pizza, through him you're already made. Not already made, for God will give you coats of many colors, heavenly made, not made in Abba, although there will be doubting Thomas. So senior man, your face go show and your shoe go shine. Friends will celebrate, enemies will be jealous, but no matter what they do, our God no go shame us. Because when God says yes, no man says no. When he blesses you, even your village people go no. For what he says, must come to pass. No matter how many times you have failed to pass, for what he writes is more than the mere theory of Marxism. They come boldly like the mene take care of us. And when you think your grace has connected with Wi-Fi, relax. Now God will run them. It will show like wildfire. For powers will shift and enemies will vanish. And you shall speak in tongues that are neither Chinese nor Spanish. He has given many gifts. Just stretch your hands and collect. But you must first mend your ways, else you go collect woto. Shall we continue to live in sin that grace may abound? Please come with clean hands and see your life turned around. For your sake, for your sake, mountains shall be made plains, arrows will be shot in vain. Hustle go they make sense, even you go see the again, and people will rejoice with you. Fine boy like you, now them go to rush you. You feel no be Chris Tucker, but your blessing go to rush hour, and you go confirm say no be Chris Tucker, but now Christ Tucker, for he has promised that he will never fail. So enemies are free to be jealous, but last our God no go shame us.
God no go shame us, and that is on the period. That is what we are setting about. Thank you so much for that beautiful piece, Kalu. It was mind blowing. It was mind blowing. So I'll stretch my hands and receive it. Yes, all the blessings in that piece. Amen. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. Thank you for the advice. Thank you for giving us a peek into your life, and I wish you the very best. We all do wish you the very best, and we anticipate more works and greater heights. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Poemify Podcast. We hope you enjoyed every bit of it. Did you? If yes, do well to share with your art-loving friends. It's the least you can do for art's sake, you know. See you on the next episode.